What is going on, everyone? Badger here. Be sure to like and sub, and let's get into this. And many of you actually have subbed from my Warhammer videos, specifically calling out and look, I cover many, all of our pop culture franchises, but specifically at this point, the infiltration from DEI agenda, and it's gone pretty much everywhere at this point to now tabletop miniatures. I mean, obviously there's video games and books and all that of Warhammer and some of the other things that have been happening in other sectors, but I knew when it happened that Drinker might react to this because I have seen him in the past talk about Warhammer, and I think in my memory I have memories of him painting miniatures with Az in at least some streams. So here we go. Let's see. Of course, this is all coming from the recent announcement that the Custodes are being they were all men. This is after the videos of yes, Custodes, not Custodes. Sorry. They are all men from the children of nobility on Earth. And many a times that, yes, it was stated that they were male. And now they are saying, oh, no, there were always female Custodes, when there haven't been, at least by the many passages that I've seen while making the videos on it. And I realize now, and as someone has also pointed out in the comments, the big reason why Games Workshop is doing this now is because Henry's favorite faction is Custodes. And of course, because they are so fan favorited and OP and, they protect the Emperor, they're going to have to be shown in the Amazon TV show. So, of course, they're going to use the chance to now magically retcon the lore so that they can have a bunch of boss women in the Amazon TV show. Unless Henry fights it. But even him, now they will be like, see, Henry, it's lore now. Do it. Even though you've been a fan your whole life and you never had any female Custodes before.
There's been a bit of a ruckus in the Warhammer 40k community in recent days after the parent company Games Workshop decided to make some changes to the lore of their fictional universe.
And I'll say, and also was pointed out to me, there are already female equivalents of many of these factions. So this was not needed. It was done for the same reason Miles Morales just has to take over as Spider-Man. It's not enough for him to be a Spider-Man. It needs to be the Spider-Man. It's not enough for there to be women here. They need to be numero uno.
And well, they haven't exactly been well received. But what changes did they make to cause such a backlash, you might ask? Well, this is where I'm going to have to delve into the lore a little bit, so indulge me. The simplistic view is that Warhammer 40k is set in a fictional future where mankind is locked into a state of constant warfare across the galaxy and has devolved into a kind of quasi-religious military dictatorship where human life is cheap and all that matters is the survival of the Imperium. To quote the company themselves, in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there is only war.
And as for the player base, think of how the community is of Helldivers 2, with for democracy and liberty and all the in-jokes and like pretending to go along with the zealotry. Okay, and times that by 1 billion, and you'll maybe come close to the Warhammer. Like, they get into this for the Emperor. My friend has yelled heresy at me many a time. So
nice. It's a neat setting for tabletop wargaming, and there's an absolute metric ton of lore and history that's gradually been built up around it over the decades. In fact, you can actually ignore the gaming side of things altogether and just immerse yourself in the fictional worlds. There's more than enough books, short stories, graphic novels, video games, and magazine articles to keep you amused for decades. Anyway, one of the most iconic symbols...
Facts, though, by the way, they're literally thousands of hours. I've been watching lore videos because of all this, and I can't wait to... please let Henry be able to just a fraction of some of the things I was watching. It's going to be so good.
Of the 40k universe has got to be the Space Marines, genetically and surgically enhanced super soldiers wrapped up in power armor that are deployed to the most critical war zones across the galaxy. They're the very apex of human warfare, and the elite amongst them are the Custodes, the personal bodyguards of the Emperor of Mankind. In short, these are not guys with whom to fuck. Now, there's a lot of lore.
And I can already hear it because I saw these comments where people are going to say, oh, Space Marines aren't the same as Custodes. There's something gene seed process. I think he knows that. I think he's just trying to explain relatably to the real normies who have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Surrounding the Space Marines and the
which I still sort of consider myself, even though I've watched several hours of lore videos already.
Custodes themselves, how they're created and how they function, but one of the most fundamental aspects of their creation is that they're all male. Hence the reason they're all referred to as battle brothers. I know, right? Who would have thought that an oppressive, xenophobic, totalitarian military regime wouldn't have diversity and inclusion initiatives? The reasons for this are a combination of established lore, the target audience, and, well, basic common sense. From the lore side of things, the process for creating Space Marines is only compatible with male physiology, and there's no way to adapt it to work on female bodies.
But see there you go. Then they would have to acknowledge that there are biological differences between men and women. First of all, they don't even want to say that there are differences, let alone biology. So yeah, no, that
super advanced technology used to do it is barely even understood by this point in history. And to be honest, there's never been a whole lot of incentive to pursue it because, well, what's the point? Only the strongest, toughest, and most resilient individuals can even hope to survive the process of being turned into a Space Marine, much less a Custodes. To put it into context, less than a fraction of 1% of the population would even be considered as candidates, which pretty much rules women out of the equation. So
yeah, it sounds like the Halo Spartans like on crack, like super hardcore and obviously doing something right. But if you say you can't have it, that's why they want it.
Always.
They're literally children. They've done it with all of our franchises. They've taken the toys and then burned them and set them on fire. And then here you go, done playing with them. So yeah, it is that level of mentality. Oh, there's no female Custodes? Yeah, there will be now.
Seemed like a question that basically answered itself. And if I had to guess, I'd say a lot of this probably comes down to Games Workshop having a solid understanding of their target audience and what they like. Because, how can I put this? Not all that many girls are into tabletop wargaming.
You don't say.
There's some, for sure. I'm not taking anything away from them. But generally, if I had to pick the people who are most likely to be into things like Warhammer, well, it's going to be guys like this. And for a good 30 years or so, everyone seemed pretty happy with that state of...
And all of, by the way, and this is because this is the line that's sort of done with like Star Wars and Marvel and like, oh, well, you know, there just weren't that many women. And that wasn't because there was any gatekeeping by us. I'll tell you that right now. If there was a woman that liked like Star Wars or Marvel or DC, or in this case, I'm going to go ahead and speak for the Warhammer fans. Pretty sure anytime you saw a woman, those are unicorns. All right. You didn't say, get out. This is a boys only club. And like the women that liked Warhammer liked it for what it was, as I have seen in many of the tweets while covering this. And the other real sad thing is most of these people that like, what do you mean these people? In this case, these people, these Warhammer fans that are responding to these changes, they're married. They're married and or they are women and or gay. And they're like, hi, I'm a woman and I'm gay and I don't like this. Don't call me a bigot. Don't call me a this. Or I have many children and I'm married. Don't call me an incel. Like they feel like they have to do all these disclaimers just to have an opinion on a video game series they love. And I'm telling you, these decisions are not made for good. It's not actually made for inclusivity because the community itself was already inclusive. The people, it was open. The people that wanted to play it were going to play it. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Of affairs. The problem is that Warhammer started to get popular, really popular, and so it was only a matter of time before it attracted the attention of modern audiences. Not tabletop gamers playing today, of course, or even just women who happen to enjoy the hobby, but instead activists who totally don't give a shit about anything to do with 40k, but just want to score another little victory in the endless.
Good. I'm glad he said that. It's just another little check card, another little victory, another little notch on their belt.
War to dominate.
What else can we take from them?
Every single aspect of entertainment and culture. The push to make the world of 40k more diverse and inclusive has been going on for a while now, and one of the big objectives they've been gunning for is female Space Marines. Because truly, what woman doesn't want to see herself represented?
And I would point out that people were like, this has been going, like as this was a defense, like this isn't new. They've been changing and making things. It's like, right. That's how they do it. You start small on things that people really don't give a shit about, like when they made Alan Scott in Another Universe gay in DC, and then you work right up to Superman's son is gay. Then you work right up to Space Marines are women now. Then you work right up to, did you know that the Emperor was actually, that the first Custodes was actually a woman? Watch that happen.
Presented as a psychopathic, 8-foot-tall, genetically engineered killing machine. It doesn't matter to these people that 30 years of lore says it can't be done. It doesn't matter that most actual gamers don't want to see it happen. It doesn't matter that there's already entire armies of female-only soldiers specifically created to give women more of a presence in the game worlds. All that matters is winning, breaking down another barrier, homogenizing and blending everything together into an indistinguishable grey sludge of inclusion, gleefully taking another treasured thing away from their enemies so they can gloat about it and push for even greater victories next time. And a few days ago, they moved one step closer to their goal with the release of a new rulebook from...
By the way, that's not all of it, but that's a solid bit of it. Obviously, a lot of this is, if you want to go for just the straight up money, this is a woke and corrupted, at least financially, dev community managers, all the devs, all of them, all making the game, that are capitulating and doing this for better ESG scores, and then they get better interest rates on their loans from these woke finance companies, as we've seen. Now that is going away. So it's also ideological capture, which leads into this petty, like Drinker said, just putting another notch on your belt, taking another thing away from them. Oh, the white male tears.
Games Workshop, where it casually dropped in the fact that female Custodes are now apparently a thing.
Fuck. And here comes the gaslighting.
That's pretty interesting, considering they've literally never been spoken about before, and everything we know about them suggests that can't happen. But okay, sure. Naturally, fans were confused by this, and when they were questioned about it on Twitter, Games Workshop's response was simple and blunt. Since the first of the 10,000 were created, there have always been female...
Which continuously gets posted, the multiple descriptions where it's like, no, bro. It was men.
Custodians. Liar! You know, I can't help thinking that you guys are trying to do a bit of rewriting of history here. I can't help thinking that you've finally started to bow to pressure from modern audiences, and you were almost certainly encouraged to do this.
Oh, there you go. That's the ESG that I was talking about.
By a sudden infusion of investment money from BlackRock. I can't help thinking that maybe...
Of which we learn BlackRock and Vanguard right there each have a 5%. So 10% total of corruption.
You're trying to gaslight your own fans into believing we've always been at war with East Asia. And apparently, I'm not the only one. But Drinker, you absolute titan of tabletop tactics, I hear you say, the 40k universe is rife with misinformation, retcons, and rewrites. Things are constantly being changed and added to the lore, so why should this be any different?
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
And that is definitely one of the things that, the retcon, it's a mess anyway. The lore is this and this and this and all these copium, for lack of a better term. But let's see what the Drinker says.
Well, let me stop you there, heretic, because there's a few little misconceptions that I'd like to clear up on this one. The development of the Warhammer universe over the past 30 years is less of a constantly shifting chessboard and more like a telescope that's slowly coming into focus. In the early days, back in the 80s, things were intentionally vague and a lot of details were still waiting to be filled in because the developers hadn't worked everything out yet. But over the years, those details have been filled in with hundreds of articles, books, games, and rule sets, and while certain details might have been corrected and expanded on many times over, the general setting, history, characters, rulebooks, and foundations of the world have actually stayed extremely consistent. So no, that excuse doesn't wash with me anymore, boyo.
And that tracks with everything I have ever heard about Warhammer from friends and beforehand, because I had watched a couple bit of Horus Heresy videos before this whole controversy, and it's like, no, like, yeah, retcons happen throughout the years, and this has been around for a while, but no, they seem pretty zealotry about their, in a good way, about their lore, and like everyone knows what's up. It seems pretty cohesive.
And as I've mentioned in previous videos, the lore is something you should respect enough to work around instead of constantly changing. Because believe it or not, people actually get invested in this stuff. They buy into the fictional world you've created, and the more you fuck with that, the more difficult you make it for those people to stay invested, because they know that at any moment, some prick might decide to completely rewrite it to suit their own selfish bullshit needs.
Yeah.
But Drinker, it's just one little change. Why do you care so much if there's female Custodes? That's an interesting question, but here's an even better one. Why did you care so much that there weren't female Custodes?
It's the same thing. This is the as pronoun rant of, why do you care? It's just pronouns. Why do you care? Why are you doing it? Why do you care? It's just a female. Why do you care if we race swap it? Well, why do you care? Why are you doing? In other words, of course, just stop. That's gaslighting.
Why did it bother you so much that you've spent years complaining about it? Why do you feel so strongly that this thing must be changed? And why do you get so defensive when people question you about it? As heel versus babyface so correctly observed, it's really easy to ask the old "why do you care so much" question once you've gotten what you want. It's easy to defend the status quo once the status quo has been changed to suit your demands. Until of course you've decided that it has to change again, in which case you certainly will care about this stuff again. And make no mistake, they will demand that more things be changed to suit them. And I guess that's the real crux of this argument here. It's the reason Warhammer fans are pushing back so loudly against it. It's not just what the change is, although that's pretty bad all by itself, but it's what it represents that's the bigger issue. It's the sacrifice of artistic freedom on the altar of identity politics. This right here.
Oh, and he might not mention it. And maybe I'm wrong, but this 100% is a primer. This is not only is this a notch on the belt and an FU, this is actually a primer to get ready for them to be in live action in the Henry show. And unless he has ultimate clout, get ready and then for them to go, oh, see, it's in the codex, even though we just released it like a year ago or whatever. Guarantee that's why they really did this.
Here, boys and girls, is the thin edge of the wedge. It's the first little crack in the dam that will eventually become a gaping hole. Because here's the thing, the moment you make any concession, no matter how tiny, you've already given the game away. You've made it known that you're prepared to bow down to their demands if they put enough pressure on you. And so inevitably, their demands are never going to end. They'll literally never be happy, because there's always going to be some other thing, some other piece of problematic lore, some other rule or exclusionary detail that has to be altered to comply with their constantly evolving demands, and all in the name of inclusion and diversity.
I was going to say, this is why you don't negotiate with terrorists, but also every time it reminds me, I don't know if you've ever read the children's book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. If you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk. And well, it just goes on from there. The point is, like he says, the bar keeps being moved. They will never be happy.
Because these people don't care about your hobby. They don't care about integrating into a community of like-minded individuals. All they care about is that the community bends and reshapes itself to suit them until eventually they bend it so much that it breaks. People like that are complete and utter poison for any hobby, any fandom, any franchise.
And people like that have infiltrated almost every single one of them, which is why the pop culture state is the way it is. And it is really, wholly and truly what we are all, and I am trying to undo, to get back to holy hell. Remember when we had good things that weren't infested, at least with the, remember when it was just greedy people that wanted to make money, that where the ideology was few and far between, reserved to those art house movies or those indie games, and now it's everywhere.
All they ever managed to do is stir up conflict, resentment, and division, driving people away and turning fans against the very company that tries to pander to them. Because their very reason for existing is to undermine and destroy the thing they claim that they're trying to save. And if you've got any common sense whatsoever, or any love for the fandom that you're so passionate about, you'll think very carefully before bending the knee to them. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Yeah, well, I'm going away now. Really good video, Drinker. Yeah, he nailed it. Like I said, the only thing I think he should have honed in on, but again, I'll say is that they're doing this so they can do it in the live action, and then they can say that it exists in the canon, even if they just change the canon. That's pretty much the playbook Marvel has run, where the only time they ever reference the comics or actually try to follow it is when it's one of the unpopular ones from the last 5 or 10 years that they have inserted in. Other than that, they ignore it. Let me know what you think of this. Be sure to like, share, and sub. If you have done that, thank you. If you're going to do that, thank you. And
Well, bye.